Hello, everyone. My name is Javier Mercedes, and I am so happy to be here on this Monday evening with all of you fine folks to teach you some Premiere Pro. I like to do that on YouTube. My channel is just my name, Javier Mercedes. I have a bunch of other Premiere Pro tutorials on there if you want to check those out after this whole webinar. But this whole thing is meant for anybody that's new to Premiere Pro. If you kind of open up the program one time and you're like, man, kind of overwhelmed, well, you're in the right place. I want to get you to working with Premiere Pro in a smooth and awesome manner. I'll be looking at the chat. Let me see what's going on. Hello, take your seat. Hello, Ashley. Hello, Gary. Amal, Brad Lett. Hey, from Texas. That's where I'm from. All right. I think we're all good to go here. And yeah, let me go and throw you over to my screen. I'll be monitoring the chat if you guys have some questions, but we got a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. What you are looking at right meow is Premiere Pro right when you open it. A couple things to go over before I even get into a program, and that would first be the everybody's still saying hello? All right. The concept of creating a folder template for your projects. So what we have right here is a template of every single time I start a new project, I have a template like this. Now, all of these folders could be empty, but for the most part, when I do something inside Premiere Pro, I like to have a folder structure that's pre-made. That way, when I pull in anything like footage or graphics or music, I can just pull those straight into those folders. And then from that point on, all I have to do is pull it straight from that folder into Premiere Pro. It keeps things nice and orderly, and I'm able to keep track of all of my things as I build from project to project. So if I were to go back to a project maybe 2 years from now, I know exactly where the footage that I need is going to be. Looking forward to the presentation. Austin, Texas. That's where I reside. Dayron. I hope that's how you pronounce your name. Let me move along into actually Premiere Pro. So if we wanted to open up a new project within Premiere Pro, it's very simple. They made it very easy for you. If you have new projects that you've already been working on, down here you'll see those recent projects. But if you want to start a new one, there's a new project button right here. There is also up here on top, File, New, Project. Make sure you guys can see that. Yes, you can. Okay, but for the time being, let's go ahead and just start new project by hitting that button. And the two basic things that I want to showcase here, there's a lot of different options that you can do, but that's once you really know, like, you get further down in the line with Premiere Pro. I want to keep this as basic as possible so people can hit the ground running. The two main things that you need to know from this screen when starting a new project are the name and the location. So let's go ahead. What do we want to name this chat? Let me know. I know it may take a second. Let me see. I know it's like a long delay, so in between me seeing this and you guys hearing it, you know what? Just gonna write something. You know what? We'll just write something. And then location. I'm gonna hit browse here. And just like it's already up since I've ran this little presentation a couple times. But what I like to do is put it over here in the favorites, and this is that template that I was talking about. So every time I start a new project, I start with that folder, and then I would put that inside my Premiere Pro. Now, as you can see, we have a whole bunch of Premiere Pro projects already in this folder, but we will choose this same spot. I'm assuming the chat has caught up with me, so they're gonna name it Stank Cheese. Oh, wait, I can still name it Stank Cheese. Okay. Hopefully you get, Adobe's okay with that. Stank Cheese it is. All right. So from this point, I'm going to hit OK. And guess what? Boom! We are inside Premiere Pro for all of y'all. Couple things to point out. We don't have any media in here. So we need to import some media. Just turns out that I have put in the description of this live webinar YouTube video all of the links to the physical footage that we'll be using. It's free demos that you can use from Adobe Stock footage. So you can actually download that footage for free from Adobe Stock footage. All the links to the footage that I'm going to be using besides the voiceover is going to be in the links below. So with that in mind, if I bring back up my Finder here, just like I said before, I already have everything downloaded in my footage. So right here is all of that Adobe Stock footage. And there's a couple ways that you can bring this into the project. I can highlight all of these like this and drag them straight into my project bin. Another way that you can do is go up to File, Import, and now we have a file import that you were probably used to seeing with any other program, and I'll import it this way. So I'm gonna highlight all of these and import. Voila, look at that. We have some footage inside Premiere Pro. Next thing that I like to do within the context of setting up my project, and then I'll get into some interface things, is kind of organize things within the project bin. So I'm gonna right click in some negative space here within the project bin and do new bin. And I'm gonna name this new bin footage. And we'll highlight all of my footage and just drop it straight into our footage bin. And you know what, I might, sometimes I'll make a separate audio one, but just to speed things up, we'll name that one footage. The next one that I like to create is sequences, because that's the sequences are the timelines that you build your footage upon within Adobe Premiere Pro. So I'm just gonna call this sequences. And I'm going to get into kind of how to manipulate things and other things of that nature within Premiere Pro, but let me just showcase to you the panels before I get into explaining sequences. So I just clicked and I dragged some of this footage straight onto my timeline right here, and I'm gonna explain that a little bit later, but I just wanna showcase to you what all of these different panels are before I get into specifics of how to cut footage, how to put things on the timeline and things of that nature. Let me check the chat, make sure we're all good. I think the John liked that we went with stank cheese. Awesome. That's a lot of ha's. All right, moving on. Right here, let me showcase to you, this is the project bin. There's kind of 5 bins that are the most important bins within Premiere Pro to hit the ground running and start on your projects. The project bin is where you pull in all of your media. This could be pictures, graphics, Photoshop files, Adobe Illustrator files, PNGs. Everything that you bring into your project is going to be housed within the project bin, and if you want to check it, it's right here. It says ject because I can't zoom in anymore, but project right there. That's the project bin. The next one that's of importance is your program monitor. So the program monitor is going to be the final output. This is what's playing from your timeline. As I scroll through right here, the program monitor is like if you were to go to a movie theater and watch your movie, everything that's going to be played on the program monitor is your final movie or your final film, your final video. That's what is in the program monitor is your final export visual. That's not to be confused with the source monitor. So right here, you can't see it right now, but if I go to the source monitor, I'm gonna click on it inside this little panel group. And just to showcase to you that you can do this within Premiere Pro, I'm going to take my source monitor and click and drag it. And notice what happens. You get these little blue squares that you can move the panel wherever you want. That's one of the amazing things about Premiere Pro. It's very customizable. So right now, I'm gonna move it right here to this space. And that's gonna move it to the left of, I believe that's left if you're looking at this on the live stream. Maybe it's your right. I get confused because things get mirrored when you're like filming yourself and you're also looking at it. So bear with me, cut me some slack. So I'm gonna move it right here. Again, I'm holding onto the source monitor and drop it and boom. Let me move this so you can see. Right here is the program monitor, and right here is the source monitor. And think of the source monitor as a preview or a more in-depth place to preview clips and bring them down into the timeline. So if you notice, as I move the mouse across the footage in the project bin, they have this thing called hover scrub. So I can preview these clips as I hover with the mouse. But if you want to have an even better view of this and an even tighter selection with more options, I could double click any type of footage, and now it's in the source monitor. And let me make this bigger so you can all see. The source monitor will now allow us to bring footage down to the timeline in a more, I guess, specialized way. And I will get to that in a second after I explain a couple more of the panels. So next is the timeline, which if I keep bringing other files down here, this is what you would think of as an editor. So everything in this section right here is going to be what is your video. Everything that you build down in this area becomes your video. And then finally, where'd my mouse go? Right here is all of the tools. Probably the most important thing besides your timeline and your project monitor is your tools. Like, you have to be able to chop up, move things, and do all that. So these are all of the different tools that you can use within Premiere Pro. Mainly the selection tool is the one that you want to be the most aware about, because that's the one that you can click and drag things, you can kind of trim things and do other things of that nature. I don't know how many times I'm gonna say things in this presentation, but hopefully I don't say it too much. If I do, then just you gotta hit the like button 18 times. I think that's the number. All right, let me check the chat, make sure we're all good to go. Oscar winner. All right, looks like we're all good. We're all still chillaxing within the chat, so let's move on and start. Hello, I think I'm back. I believe so. Let me know in the chat. Hey, somebody says I'm back. All right, so sorry about that. I think we just lost everyone. So my computer just completely froze, and to the 14 of you that are still here, hopefully this can be a good experience. All right. Let me get back to my desktop, and we'll see what happened with stank cheese. The stank was too much. I hope not. Let's hope that doesn't happen again. If it does, I'm sorry, but let me get back into some stank cheese. All right, so no worries here. Let me right click and import the footage that we already had imported. So what happens when you're doing it live, folks. It looks like some people are returning. Thank you for coming back. All right, so we had some things down on the timeline. I may need to speed through some things because of that little mishap, but hopefully we can get to everything that everybody needs. Let's talk about sequences and building sequences. To start with, because the Premiere Pro had to restart, what ended up happening is I still had my project, but now I have my footage in there, which is actually, this could be nice because now I could build a sequence from scratch. If you want to build a sequence from scratch, you could go up here to sequence, no, actually file, new, and sequence. Another way that I like to do it though is click any of your footage and bring it down onto this little icon right here for new, and you can do that as well. That will start a new sequence. And another way that you can do it, if you're just starting a program or a project, let me delete this, is just click and drag any of the footage directly onto the timeline. Now, one thing that I want to do at this point is go up and go to my sequence settings. So I went to sequence settings, and right here I want to look at what my sequence settings are. Just for everyone, the most common sequence settings for frames per second are 24 frames per second and 30 frames per second. If you're in the US or anywhere in the Americas, it's 29.97 and 23.976. I don't know why we wanted to make things harder on ourselves, but we just like to do that, and then just round up to 24 frames per second. If you're doing something like a film, a video, if you're watching anything cinematic, that's what is 24 frames per second. 30 frames per second leans more into broadcast. So if you're watching something on TV, that's broadcast. And then for those of you that like to do live streams or gameplays, that's 60 frames per second because it has a high refresh rate. But for right now, let me do 23.976 just because that's what I'm usually do. Again, if you are overseas, then 24 frames per second, but I'm gonna do 23.976. Another big thing is to make sure that it's square pixels. A lot of this stuff is for things like anamorphic. Make sure that it's square pixels. And yeah, I'm going to keep all this, progressive scan, and hit OK. I think my OK is down here. I'm gonna hit OK off screen because it was going off my screen. So now we have a sequence. Let me make sure that you can see that my picture's not taking it over. Cool. Everybody is back with me. Hey, thanks everybody for coming back. Thank you. So even if I were to delete this footage, we still have the sequence here. Right here, you can see it. And if I wanted to bring in other footage, so let's say we wanted to start with this lady dancing over here. And this is where I want to get into the source monitor. Like I said, I wanted to bring that up next. So if I double click this, it has now changed this group of monitors to the source monitor and not the program monitor. So right here, if I click and drag this over to the side, this is the source monitor, this is the program monitor. Because it's black, there's nothing down here on the timeline for the program monitor to play. So just so we can have a better idea of what the source monitor is doing, I'm actually going to bring it back over here and make it a part of this one so we can have a bigger screen. I'm going to move my panels so we even had a little bit more room to work with. I want to get into a concept called inserts and overwrites, and this is one way to bring your footage down onto the timeline. So at this point, we can take the playhead right here and move along while this lady is just doing some funky dances to the stock footage, and she's like pointing, shaking hands, and we could just imagine in our heads that she's like so happy that she's using Premiere Pro, and all these other people are like, man, you got Premiere Pro? I got it too. She got the thumbs up. And you want to select a certain section of this to bring down to the timeline, not the full clip, just a certain section. And this is where we will talk about right here. If I hover my mouse over insert and overwrite, moving into the insert, let's grab a certain section of this. So she's doing, let's do it where she's like pointing because it seems to be the craze for stock footage nowadays. So she's going to point at this dude. And then I'm going to hit I on my keyboard to create the in. Another way to do that would be to go down here and I'm marking my in. So if I hit this button right here, it would do the same thing, but I like using keyboard shortcuts, so I it is. Moving along, I'm going to move until she's done shaking his hand and moving like to some other thing. So the action is done, she shook his hand and she's off to go dance and be happy about Premiere Pro. To have our out or mark our out of this section, I'm going to hit O on the keyboard, and now we have a selection. We have an in and an out. So I can bring this down to the timeline. In order to do that, you could do it a couple different ways. If I wanted to insert it, it's going to put it exactly wherever this playhead is, it's going to insert it. And one thing I want you to notice is right when I touched the playhead on the timeline, it switched this monitor over to the program monitor. Premiere Pro wasn't broken, it's just that I have my source monitor and my program monitor within the same bin, and it's smart enough to know that when you're trying to preview things on the timeline, you want to be seeing the program monitor. But I'm gonna go back to the source monitor, and now I'm going to, right here, hit insert. So I'm going to click insert, and it has pasted this section of the clip down on the timeline. So now this is our first clip in our video. Wouldn't it be cool if we added some more clips to our video? Let's go ahead and do that. Just so you guys get an understanding of the source monitor and program monitor, I'm now, like I did before we froze, I'm gonna move the source monitor over here to the left. I believe it's the left. Again, give me some slack if it's not. And notice how when I scrub, the program monitor is moving and not the source monitor. Again, I hope you guys can, yeah, my picture isn't covering that up. Moving to a different one, let's go ahead and, let's do some astronauts. Who doesn't love astronauts dancing and pointing, Maybe this building back here is where that conference was being held, and then this guy's outside and he's dancing and pointing. He's like, you got Premiere Pro, and you got Premiere Pro. So let's, again, set an in and an out. So I'm going to go right when he points, I'm going to hit I on my keyboard, and I'm going to hit O after he gets to this spot right here. So I'll hit O, and there's a couple other things that you could do here too. Because I've made my selections, I could just drag down the audio by clicking this icon right here and dragging it down, and then it will drag down just the audio. Or I could do just the video right here. I could click and drag this little film strip down onto the timeline, and that will do it too. I just want to showcase to you that that's an option, but the next thing that I'm going to do is insert this again. So there's my playhead. It's on the very end of that clip, so I'm going to hit insert, and boom, it has moved this clip down onto the timeline. Another thing that I will do is if I hold Option on Mac or Alt on Windows, I can make this track taller just so I can show you. So I'm going to hold Option on Mac while scrolling on my scroll wheel, and that makes it bigger or smaller. Let me make this even bigger so you can see what I'm doing. I can make this bigger or smaller. Another thing that I want to showcase is I want to get rid of this audio. There's no audio there, so I want to get rid of the linked audio to this clip. In order to do that, I'm going to hold Option on Mac or Alt on Windows and just click the audio. If I didn't hold Option, what would happen is I would click it and then it would highlight both the clips. But in order to highlight just the audio, I'm going to hold Option or Alt on Windows and click it, and then I'm just going to hit Delete. Now, all right. I believe I'm back. Let me know if not. Hey, I'm back. All right, so I haven't had this problem yet with my live stream, so I'm so sorry, guys, that this is happening. I've switched it so my monitor is now my laptop monitor, so I'm not going to be able to see some things live streaming, and then I'll have a smaller kind of, you'll see this whole square thing, but I'm hoping that this alleviates the issue of what's going on. Let me get back up to speed here, guys. Just import some footage. Boop. Again, I'm just getting this back up to basically where we were before I cut out, and then I will pick up. Just give me a second while I get right to where we were. Doing it on the fly. All right, here's to hoping, save your work. Hey, there we go. Thank you so much. So I normally have my Premiere Pro auto save to like 5 minutes, but I have things reset so the preferences are as if people are coming to the program for the first time, but maybe I should have kept that. All right, so I have saved. Thank you so much. Hopefully I can stick with you guys throughout this time, and if not, let me know. All right, so from this point, what I will do is go and show you guys overwriting. So I'm gonna go back over here to source clips. I deleted some audio here. That's what I was in the middle of doing. And I'm going to select a different clip here, and it's the astronaut kind of chilling doing his thing here up top. And let's say we want to add this clip. The first thing that I want to showcase to you so you can see what's really going to happen is label these or change the label of these. So I'm going to right click and go to label. And I'm just going to change this to violet, and I'm going to right click, go to label, and change this to Caribbean. And the reason why I'm doing this is so I can showcase to you the differences between inserting and overriding. It looks like you're still with me. I'm not frozen. Good things. All right, so now I'm going to go and do, let's say we have the astronaut come in out of nowhere while these guys are playing their instruments. So I'm going to set my in point right when he kind of comes to take over the microphone, and then my out point right afterwards. So he's going to take the microphone, and I'll set my out right there. And now, if I were to insert this, watch what happens. My playhead is in between the green and the purple clip. So I'll make this a little bit bigger. Remember, I'm holding Option and doing the scroll wheel. So I'm going to hit Insert, Insert. And notice what happened. It inserted it. That's kind of tough to say. I'm looking at my microphone. Need to look over here. It inserted it in between the two clips. And it shifted that purple clip or the astronaut dancing outside over to the right. I'm going to hit Command Z or Control Z on Windows to undo that. And notice what happens if I were to hit overwrite. So I'm going to hit overwrite. For those that can't see, there's overwrite there, right there. And if I hit overwrite, now it drops it immediately above the clip. And there's a couple things that I need to point out here. The reason why it dropped it above the clip and not onto this track is because my source patching over here was set to track number 2. Whatever is highlighted on this side of the lock is where it is going to paste to from your source patching. If I hover the mouse over, it should say something like source patching from inserts and overrides. It's not doing it for me. You can do, there we go. Source patching for inserts and overrides. That's what that section is. So if I wanted to showcase to you putting it in overriding onto track 1, notice I clicked over here onto track 1. I'm gonna move my playhead over and do overwrite so it overwrites the clip down here. So, boop. There it overwrites the clip, and now we no longer have that purple clip because we've overwritten everything on that track. So again, if I hit insert, it shifts everything over to the right. If I hit overwrite, it then pastes over or overwrites the footage on that track. Let me check the track. Just checking comments, making sure we're all still good. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to continue on again. Hopefully it doesn't freeze again, but I want to try and kind of power through some stuff so I make sure that I get to things. If it does happen again, hopefully it doesn't. So right now, what I want to do is insert this little clip. So maybe I'll insert this little clip right here. There we have it. Awesome. Let's move on to the next part and showcase to you maybe some color stuff. Let me zoom out just a little bit. And in order to showcase to you, actually no, let's do some speed ramping. So I'm gonna utilize this clip right here of this lady breathing fire. And the interesting thing about this clip is the clip is already in slow motion. And when we're talking about speed ramping, it's the gradual change from fast motion to slow motion or vice versa. So as you can see, this is a really cool clip of her blowing that fire, but what we want to do is go like and have it start fast, gradually go to slow, and then go up to fast again. And what I'll do is click and drag this entire clip because I want to work with the entire clip on the timeline, just to showcase to you that you can use a source monitor or you can click and drag from the project bin. But because I want to work with this entire clip, I'm going to click and drag it straight from the project bin. Next thing is I'm going to delete the audio underneath it because there is none. So I'm going to right click and delete that. Next, we are going to go to this little spot right here and showcase to you a couple ways to speed up and slow down footage. The first and easiest way is to right-click your footage and go to speed and duration. For those that can't see, I'm just going to zoom in right here, speed and duration. So I'll click speed and duration, and next, right here in the speed and duration window, you have the options of to go 100%. If you go above 100%, it's going to go faster. If you go below 100%, it's going to go slower. Because this clip is already slower, I would want to do something like, let's do 1,000%, going crazy. If you also look here, you have the options to reverse it or ripple edit shift trailing clips. I don't want to get into that, as well as time interpolation, because ironically, we don't have the time to talk about it. So there's 1,000%. Let me zoom out. So look at this clip right here to see what happens. I'm going to hit that, and notice how the clip immediately got smaller. Let me zoom. Oh, and I'm zooming in and out on my timeline by hitting the plus and minus keys. So if I go and hit the plus key, right here is where it shows you what the percentage is of this clip. So instead of it being as slow as it was before, now we have something more normal speed. So something like that. That's one way to slow down or speed up your footage. Let me undo this. And the next way is to go over here to your toolbar. Let me zoom in. Right where the ripple edit tool is by default, if you see a little triangle right here, you can click and see other options. If there is a little triangle in the corner, that means there's more cursors in a submenu from that initial cursor. So I'm going to click and hold, and there's the rolling edit tool, but there's also the rate stretch tool. So with the rate stretch tool, I can click this, and I'm going to zoom out. Oh, I'm going to zoom out on my actual screen so you can see. And I'll make my timeline a little bit bigger. And notice what happens when I click and drag from the end of a clip. Now, if I were to zoom in, you can see that it has sped it up by 412%. And this is another way to quickly speed up or slow down clips. The rate stretch tool over here in the toolbar. I just undid that by hitting Command Z. The next one is what we kind of want to talk about, and that is to gradually slow down and then gradually speed it back up. So in this instance, I'm going to speed it up, slow it down, and then speed it up. What we want to do is first, this is going to involve some keyframing. And if you're unfamiliar with what the term keyframing means, all that's really saying is that we are animating or we're automating a parameter over time. So let me make this bigger so you can see what I'm about to do. If I zoom in on the clip on the timeline, right here it says FX. This is where we want to enable our time remapping features. I'm going to right click, go to time remapping, speed. So now this line right here is the time of the clip. Now, if you remember, this clip is in slow motion already. So if I hit play, it's extremely slow. We need to speed it up first. So if I were to click and drag this line upwards, you can see that it is getting faster. I'm not going to do that just yet. I just wanted to showcase to you what happens. The first thing that I'm going to do is hold Command on Mac or Control on Windows and move my cursor to where I want it to slow down. Let's say we want it to slow down right here. I'll hold Command on Mac, click this, and that makes a kind of another playhead right here, or some markers on the clip within our speed ramping keyframes. I'm going to move it to where I want it to speed back up again, move along, and let's say we want it to speed back up like maybe about right there. So I'm going to hold Command on Mac or Control on Windows and have it do that again. So now I'm going to move my playhead over, or these markers. What I'm doing is I'm clicking and dragging these little markers on the clip. And here's the beautiful thing. Because the clip is already in slow motion, we know that this is the spot where we want it to be slow. I'm actually going to move this over just a little bit. Let me zoom in just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Now, watch what happens if I click and drag the line on this side of those markers. immediately it starts shortening the clip because I'm speeding up this side. So I'm gonna go all the way up to maybe 1,680 because that was the easiest thing to do. And then on this side, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna go all the way up to about 1,000 and some change. And now if I zoom out of my screen, make my program monitor a little bit bigger, zoom in on the timeline, you guys should be able to see what is about to happen. So now let me, in essence, when I hit play, it should go, and then like kind of like, if I could explain it in sound effects, that would be it. Let me hit play. And there, we have speed ramped that little selection. Wasn't that dandy? If you wanted to make it, if you wanted to adjust some parameters, so maybe you want the ramp to be a little bit different, so the ramp to be a little bit longer, you can do that by just moving these little markers right there. So let me play it just for you because I really like how that looks. So cool, so cool. All right, let's move into can you show how you zoom in and out of that shot? So that's a little thing on Mac, but there is a way to make the program monitor bigger. Who asked that? Darren. All you have to do is hit the tilde key. So it's right underneath the escape key. I don't know if you can even see that from where you're at because my monitor is a little low. But if you hit the tilde key while you have something highlighted, you can actually make it full screen. So if you wanted to make your program monitor full screen, I just did that by hitting the tilde key on that panel. If I wanted to make my timeline that big, I will hit the tilde key, and now it's made my timeline full screen. I'll hit the tilde key again, and it will go from unfull screen, if that makes sense. But let me move into some color correcting things because I gotta speed along. I'm sorry if I don't have time to answer all of the questions. Again, the next thing that I want to talk about is color. So with color, let me zoom in on this little section right here. Up here we have our workspaces. So I could hit color to change my workspace. So I'm going to hit that right now. And if I zoom out, just so I can showcase to you what it did, I hit color. Now it changed it over to my color workspace. The next thing that I could do, if you haven't seen this before, is you could go to Window, Workspaces, Color. So you could also reach your color workspace that way. The big thing that I want to get across here is just the Lumetri panel. And let me make sure that my image isn't blocking that. No, it's not. Okay. The Lumetri panel is the easiest way to do color within Premiere Pro. If you're used to things like Lightroom, you'll pick up on Lumetri color really quick. First of all, you know what? I think it's time for some new footage. So let's bring in some different footage here. Let's bring in this clip where, and let me make it bigger just so you can see what I'm adjusting. These people, maybe they're perusing at the clips that we're watching right now, and they're like, man, all of these clips are really cool. Did you see that fire breathing? Boom, that was tight. So let's just get their fist bump in here. So again, I'm going to hit I on the keyboard to set my in point, fist bump, O on the keyboard to set my out point. And because I don't know where my playhead is here, I'm going to zoom out by hitting the minus or plus keys on my timeline. The next cool keyboard shortcut is your arrow keys. So if you hit down or up on your arrow keys, I can move the playhead to the next edit point. So if right now I'm hitting down on my keyboard, and you can see that it's moving to the next clip. Let me zoom in on the timeline just so you can see that a little bit more. And if I hit down on the keyboard, it's just moving the playhead to the next clip. I know that I want this clip to be next in my sequence of clips. So I'm going to insert it here, boom. And now it's down on my timeline. The next clip that I want to add is right here. More pointing, more dancing. Isn't it glorious? So, let's go ahead and find a good spot. How about when he points to the camera? You know, he does a little spin. I'll hit I on my keyboard, move around. He points again. I'll hit O, and now we have all of that in awesomeness. So notice how I just clicked and dragged that straight down onto the timeline. I believe I did. Sometimes, like, I'm moving so fast now that I forget that I have to like say things out loud in order to showcase how to do them. But again, you can click and drag straight from the clip onto the timeline if you wanted to do it that way. And again, I don't need the audio from this clip, so I'm gonna hold Option on Mac or Alt on Windows, click my bottom clip and hit delete. How do you get it back to see that fire clip? Yes, Lucy, if I wanted to get back to see the fire clip, right here, I know that that's, I can click and drag on the timeline, and that's where the fire clip has this, the speed ramping on it. So if I hit play, the fire clip has the speed ramping on it, or I can go back to my project bin and find the fire clip itself and double click that fire clip, and now it's in my source monitor. So anything that I do to this clip has nothing to do with my fire clip on the timeline. It's just in the source monitor. So I can make a completely new edit from this fire clip. I'll hit I, I'll hit O, and I'll insert it. And there it's on the timeline. So hopefully that clears up some more information about the differences between source monitor and program monitor, and also just finding footage. So I'm gonna delete that one that I just put on there, and let's move into some coloring. Okay. Now, just to showcase to you the Lumetri panel within Premiere Pro, let me make sure that I'm not blocking it. I'm not. Even if so, let me move this over just a little bit so I know that I'm not blocking it. If you wanted to do some white balance, you could use your color picker and then go to a white part of the picture and click that. Looks like it's a little off. So in order to reset this, there's a couple ways that you can do it. With every single slider, you can double click on the slider itself to set it back to 0. So I'm gonna double click, and then it sets it back to 0, double click, sets it back to 0. You have parameters for exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, very basic things. Again, if you wanted to reset all of these, they make a nice little reset button down here. There's also a little auto feature that I like to use. Let's see what it does. Auto? Okay, so it automatically brought the shadows down a little bit, and it brought down the blacks. And it didn't really touch any, it added a little bit of exposure. You know what? Let's say that's good and move on to showcasing you the rest of the Lumetri color panel. Here inside Creative, you have a whole bunch of different looks that you can put onto your footage. And if you wanted to preview those, all you have to do is hit this little arrow key, and hopefully you can see that on the live stream. I know it's a little bit smaller. I was trying to showcase this with a larger monitor, but just so it doesn't freeze again, I'm trying to avoid that. If you wanted to add a look, just think of this as kind of like Instagram when you're going through filters. This is almost the same thing. You can change the intensity of how much of that look is added. You can add a faded film to that. You can sharpen, vibrance, saturation. You have your shadow tint and your highlight tint and tint balance. Don't want to get too far into it, this little section, but if you wanted to add something, you could double click the look, and then all of a sudden it's here on the footage for you to look at. But I'm not going to use that, and instead of undoing any of this, what I'm going to do is showcase to you this little button right here. If you uncheck that, it automatically turns off the creative portion of the Lumetri color panel. Let's move on to curves. There is a lot going on here. If you are familiar with curves, it's a way to basically adjust the luminance or the brightness of your image in specific colors too. But notice if I were to click and drag this, the reason they call it curves is because you can click and make these, you can make curves to adjust your highlights, or this part of the square, and your shadows. If you're new to using color, Curves can be a very confusing thing to understand. What I just did right there was double click the square. If I were you and you just wanted to know how to do color correction in a basic manner, just stick to basic correction if you want to adjust things like exposure and the shadow and highlights. If you want to get a little bit deeper, then I would go to curves, and underneath things like the hue saturation curves, would let you manipulate the brightness of specific colors or the saturation of specific colors. So if I use the color picker here, let's just click on maybe their skin tones. If I brought this down, no, it makes it really bad, but I'm taking out the saturation of their skin. Let me zoom in on that so you can see. So if they have no skin anymore, it's just gray. But I could also bring the saturation way up of just that specific color. So now it's too much. Again, if I want to just completely nullify everything that I just did, I'm going to double click on the square and boom, it's back to normal. So that's hue versus saturation, and there's different versions of that. So you could do hue versus hue. Let me again click their skin, and now I'm changing the color of their skin. It's like a rave party. Yeah. Anyhow, definitely not going to do that. So yes, there are different things that you can do with the different colors within curves. Really neat feature. Let's move on. Color wheels, this is what I want to showcase to you with comparison view. Let's say you're making an edit and you want to match the colors from one shot to the next shot. Well, Adobe Premiere has made it really easy for you to do that. So let's say we wanted to match this shot where they're fist bumping to our shot of the scientist dancing right here. If we wanted to do that, the first thing we want to do is go to this little section right here and click comparison view. So I'm going to click comparison view, zoom out. Now we are within comparison view. Let me make sure that everybody's okay in the chat. Looks like it. Okay. Within comparison view, we have two different windows that we're looking at. We're looking at the reference and we're looking at current. So if I were to make this bigger, you can see this. Reference and current. So reference is looking at the timeline, and if you notice, this is exactly, oh, and by the way, let me just hit save for somebody that told me to do that. Good reminder. Right now, the reference is referencing what's on the timeline. So if I were to move this, these are all the clips as they appear on the timeline. Now, if I move the playhead down here on the timeline, this is the program monitor. So that's currently where the playhead is on the timeline. So let's say we wanted to match our fist bumping shot to the scientist shot. What we need to do is say this, we need to move our reference playhead to what we want our reference to be. And it's going to be our fist bumping shot. And now we want to mimic the colors in this shot to our scientist shot. So at this point, let me go over here, and if I were to hit apply match, that's exactly what it's going to do. It's going to take the reference and apply it to the current. So I hit apply match, and hopefully you can see that over the stream, but here in person I can definitely tell that the colors from this shot were just applied to this one to match them. Very cool that they have that feature within Premiere Pro. Looking like we're still doing good in the chat. Let me switch out of comparison view now. And one way to do that is this little wrench down here on the program monitor. So I'm going to click that. Let me zoom out so I can show you. And go to, make sure I'm not blocking the image, and go to composite video. And now composite video is exactly what you're used to seeing within Premiere Pro. So all good and dandy on that front. Now let's move on to doing some audio. So I do have here already recorded a voiceover to go into our project. Now, since Premiere Pro has shut off on me and come back on, I'm hoping that you guys can hear what I'm saying in here. So let me know in the chat. Hopefully you can, oh, let me change this just to make sure. Hit OK. I think you guys should be able to hear my voice. Well, how about astronauts dancing? And scientists dancing while pointing at stuff? Yes, no? We don't know. Hopefully. I'm just going to continue. Nobody said anything. So, in talking with audio, we want to look at the audio workspace. If I go over here to Window, we can go to Workspaces, Audio, and the next thing, yes, but it is low. Very quiet. I know there's a way to do that. Hopefully, I'm going to bring this back up. I think it's as high as I can put it right now. But I don't think it will be too much of an issue for what I want to showcase. I can also just turn it up just a smidge for you. Inside audio, the audio workspace, let me go to Window and Workspaces and Audio. Now we are looking at the audio window, and in order to make this look exactly as if you were coming to it for the first time, let me go to Workspaces and reset to saved layout, and I'm going to do that. And now what I'm going to do is showcase to you the essential sound panel. So the dialogue that you heard and very low was my VO, and that clip is dialogue. And the way that essential sound works is you tag the different types of audio. So over here in this part of the panel, let me zoom in. We have dialogue, we have music, we have sound effects and ambience. And if you have any of those kinds of pieces of audio in your project, you would want to highlight that audio and label it as such. So I'm going to label this clip as dialogue. One thing that I want to do before that, though, is chop up my VO just so I can kind of spread it out across the track, and I want to showcase to you some different editing techniques. So just to make this a little bit bigger, let me make this just like this. And notice that I have these moments of silence in between my VO. The first thing that I want to do is chop up the moments of silence and move my VO across the visuals that we've already placed. In order to do that, there's a couple ways that you can. The very first one, and one of the easiest, is to use the razor tool. So back on our tool bar, we have here the razor tool. So I'm going to click that and click in the different spaces right here where there are openings in the VO. The next thing that I'm going to do is hit my V key to go back to the selection tool. Now I'm going to, let me make sure this is big enough, and I'm going to zoom in this on my screen so you can really see what I'm doing. Now, if you put your cursor, oops, that's not what I want to do. If you put your cursor near the end of a clip, what happens is you get this little red mark, and if I click and drag, now I can just kind of trim the ends of these clips where there's silence, and I don't need that, you know? Nobody needs that. And now let me zoom out so I can see a better idea of what I'm doing. And that is one way to trim your clips. Another thing that I might do at this point is add fade-ins and fades-outs to some of the clips. So I'm going to highlight them all and put the cursor right to the end of one of the clips, right-click, and there should be something that says Apply Default, or is it not? No, it's not in there because it would be up in sequence. Let me just do it via the keyboard shortcut because that's in the way that I know how to do it the fastest. For people on Mac, it would be Shift-Command-D to apply a crossfade to the ends of all of these clips. For people on Windows, that would be Shift-Control-D. So here I'm going to hit Shift-Command-D, And if you notice, now we have these little crossfades on the ends of each clip. That's a very, very neat feature. If I wanted to add a fade in between two clips, I could do that same thing. If I, instead of hitting Shift Command D, I would hit Command D in between two video clips. That would be Control D for people on Windows. So if I hit Command D, watch what happens between these two clips. Let me highlight them really quick. It didn't apply my default transition there because I didn't have the clip highlighted, but when I did, it did create a little cross dissolve. So now we have a little cross dissolve in between. That's so cheesy. Oh man, they're just fist bumping into the scientist doing his little jig. That's awesome. So the other thing is it added a little cross dissolve at the end, which is actually, I like the little cross dissolve. We'll keep it. Oh man, I love what we're building here. Let me get back into just manipulating and moving these clips around a little bit more. So I still have my selection tool. I'm gonna move this over to the end, and I'm just gonna space out this audio a little bit. So as it plays, it'll kind of be like a VO underneath, and it will have let's say we were making something like a 30-second spot. I know for a fact that this clip in the middle is actually going to be way too long. So now let's showcase another way to create a cut, which is to add and edit. So think of add edit as the razor tool, but you don't have to use the razor tool. Right here with my playhead, I'm going to hit Command K on the keyboard, and that will add and edit. I have this clip highlighted, so I'll hit Command K, and it adds an edit in between the two clips. Notice how there's now an edit there. So let's say I want to delete this clip, and now I'm going to highlight all of these clips and move them over. But it's going to start hitting this one, so I'm just going to move this one over too. We're just going to make this a little bit shorter because ain't nobody got time for that. All right, now our VO makes a little bit more sense. Yeah. Now, let's get into the essential sound. Let me highlight my clips down here. And like I said before, we need to tag them. So there's dialogue, music, sound effects, and ambience. Well, what we're dealing with at this point in time with this voiceover is dialogue. So I'm going to click dialogue, and now all of these audio clips have been assigned dialogue. When you have dialogue, it gives you so many different parameters. If you are new to video editing or just any kind of audio editing in general, the essential sound panel is so much your friend. It makes things much easier on the user to repair, turn up, turn down, do audio restoration, add reverb, different effects. So let me showcase to you, like I could hit auto match here and it auto matches the loudness between the clips. I could reduce the noise, reduce rumble, de-hum. You could de-ess, you could reduce the reverb, which is like the echo. Think of that as the echo. And in fact, I accidentally just hit that. I don't want that. You could add dynamics like clarity, and you can maybe add an effect like make it sound like it's coming out of an intercom. So let me play this again. I know it's still low, and this isn't coming out of Premiere Pro. It's just how my streamer is sending you the signal. It's actually not that low in volume. In fact, you can see down here that the volume hits this spot right here. But we're doing it on the fly, just trying to showcase to you some things. So if you could hear that, it made it sound like I was coming out of an intercom. You could switch this to a couple different things. I'll turn that off though. And you could add reverb and adjust the clip level and other things of that nature. So that is tagging things as dialogue within the essential sound panel. Let's move on to this amazing feature that they added just recently underneath the browse. Let me showcase to you. Okay, yes, you can't hear it, but it is low. I know it's low. don't have time to troubleshoot it right now. Inside the browse, we now have the capability of utilizing stock stock music from Adobe Stock footage. And as you can see from all of these waveforms, this is the music from Adobe Stock footage just in a menu within Premiere Pro. It's so cool how they have this in here now. So if we wanted to stick with the whole dancing thing, we could go to moods and maybe let's choose groovy. Yeah, let's choose groovy. And let's see what other parameters we have. We have genres, and because they were dancing, we'll choose dance. Let's move on to filters, maybe do epidemic sound. And let's say we like this Life of Lavish track. So I can play it here. Again, I know it is low for those of you that are watching, but just know that in Premiere Pro, it is louder. So one thing that I want to showcase to you is if I zoom out on my timeline, notice what happens when I go and move my playhead over here. If I click anywhere on the music, it moves the playhead to wherever I'm clicking on the music, which is super cool because like I know we haven't made a very long edit here, but imagine you had like something like a 5-minute edit and you wanted to see how this song played to the edit. You can click different parts of the song to showcase like, oh, well, there's the middle of the song, here's the middle of my edit. That's called timeline sync, and it's down here. So that's one neat little feature that they have also with the music. All right, so if we wanted to utilize this music inside our project, there's a couple ways that you can get it in there. The first one is to click on these 3 little dots, and hopefully everybody can see that. If you can't, it's these 3 little dots right here. And you can add it to your project, you can save it to a local folder, or you can save it to your library. What I'm gonna choose is add to project. So if I zoom out, let me showcase to you my project bin. And what's already been created is a stock audio media bin. So if I click on that, there's our music. Now, if you notice, there's a little shopping cart down here. So once you have maybe edited your music within your project, you have the final approval from the client, you can now just license the music within Premiere Pro. Super awesome that you can do that. So what I'm gonna do at this point is click and drag it down to the bottom of, right below my, what is this? Right below my dialogue. And let me check the chat really quick because I see some things going off. Okay, Adobe cares, caring for y'all. Thank you for responding to the comments, person on the other side of Adobe Care. So here we have music in here. We have our dialogue. Again, I know that on the stream it sounds low, but just know that it sounds normal volume here. What I want to showcase to you is this amazing feature within Essential Sound called audio ducking. So that's the concept of turning down the volume of the music when the dialogue is talking, and then turning back up the music after the dialogue is done. In fact, in order to showcase this a little bit more, let me spread this VO out just a smidge. And now back inside Essential Sound, make sure that you can see this. I'm going to go to Edit. So underneath Edit, again, I need to tag my music as music. And one thing that I could do here is chop off the end of this music. One way to do that is to move your playhead where you want to chop off the music to, and do something called ripple deleting. So if I wanted to chop off everything on the end of the clip to the playhead, all I need to do is hit W on my keyboard. So I'm gonna hit W and watch what happens to this waveform. It automatically deleted everything to the right of the clip. If I undo that and if I were to hit Q, watch what happens. Now, it just deleted it a little bit to the end. So essentially what Q does is, just so you get a better idea, Q will delete everything to the left of the playhead till your next edit point. So let me hit Q again, boom. that's to give you a better idea of what Q does. So now I'm just going to hit delete on that so I can showcase this to you. Another thing that I might want to do is add, oh, actually, no, I don't want to add that yet. Let me zoom in so we get a better idea. Kind of go over here. And now I need to label my music as music. So I'm going to highlight that music track and click music right here. Expand this just a little bit. All right, so now what we want to do is audio ducking. In order to enable audio ducking within the Essential Sound panel, with our music clip highlighted, we're going to click this little button right here, and now it's going to ask you, what do you want to duck against? Meaning, we have these VO clips right here. We need to duck against that. By default, this is already highlighted blue, so it's going to duck against my my dialogue clips. And I could explain a little bit more what this does, but I feel like it's better to show you what it does and then explain what happened. So before I do anything, let me just go right here and hit generate keyframes. So let me zoom in. If you notice right here, the volume of the, this line stands for the volume. If you look, it turns up the volume of the music when there's this little gap in the dialogue. Now I can increase the sensitivity of when these gaps happen and how long these gaps are with these 3 parameters. And that's the reason why I wanted to show you what it does before actually like telling you what it does with these 3 different sliders. So with duck amount, this is how much it's going to turn it down. So instead of -17, let me go to like -25 on the music. Next thing is the fade, so I can change how long it takes to fade in and out, and then also the sensitivity. So if I go up to high, now if I hit generate keyframes, this should look a little bit different. So let me hit it, and there. I've made the music a little bit lower, and if I make the sensitivity low, yeah, then it starts to put the audio keyframes in between each clip right here. So just to showcase to you the ducking, I'll keep it like this because it's the volume starts high, goes low. Once there's no speech, goes back up to the volume that it was, and low. Hopefully you get the point. I'll hit play here just so you can really see or hear what it is. Again, I know it's low over the stream, but if you see right here on the VU meter, just know that it's a normal volume level. Do you like footage of people dancing? Well, how about astronauts dancing? And scientists dancing while pointing at Hopefully that gives you an idea. Hit save on that. And let me go from this point and just showcase to you really quick how to add something like a title to our video. Again, I keep forgetting that I'm just like doing these things really quick. If you see me making these really small or really huge or really tall, all I'm doing is holding shift on my keyboard and using my scroll wheel to make my tracks smaller and bigger. So, looks like we lost a little bit of a clip right there. Now let's add a title. Let's just add the title kind of over here on the back end. And in order to do that, all you have to do is go to your type tool right here. In fact, I'm gonna move this back over. Go to your type tool, which is this little icon. Click it and move into the center of your program monitor, and automatically it starts allowing you to type on the screen. So let's just type awesome, exclamation point. And the next thing that I want to showcase is let's go into maybe the graphics workspace. So I'm going to click graphics workspace to really showcase to you how to manipulate these things. And hopefully it gives us a good view. Hit plus on that. If you want to manipulate clips and the effects that are happening to clips, that's what happen in the effects control window. So you can do that by hitting Shift 5 on the keyboard, or you could go to Window and Effects Controls. So with our title highlighted, here are all of the different effects controls of this specific awesome clip. Like you can adjust the position, scale, rotation, things of that nature. But what we want to do is, well, you want to change the text. Let's say we want to change the font and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to highlight the text, and I'm going to maybe change it to impact. And now we have awesome in impact. The next thing that I could do is center it. So there's a couple ways that you can center text. The first way that I like doing is your selection tool. So I'm going to hit V, actually with it highlighted. I'm going to click off into the space so I'm not highlighting the clip. Now I'm going to hit V to bring up my selection tool. Now this is the same tool that you go and you click clips and you can move things around with. But the awesome thing is, the awesome thing is I can hold Command on my computer or Command on Mac, Control on Windows, and while I'm holding Command and dragging the font, if you notice, there's little red lines. Hopefully that shows up on the live stream. There's little red lines that help you snap your title to something like the center. Now, if I move it over here, there's another way that you can do this, and it's inside the Essential Graphics window right here. Notice that there's our awesome typing, and here we have the same kind of alignment tools that you would associate with any kind of writing program or graphics program. And to easily align it to the center, we have a vertical center and a horizontal center. So to do it this way, all I would need to do is click this and click that, and now my awesome is in the center. Another thing that I would like to do is make it bigger, which I believe is down here. So now we have the scale down here, and these are all of the different font things that are available to you as well. So let me make it just a little bit smaller so it stays in our screen, and then I will center it again. Head over to the chat, make sure we're all good. That ducking is a game changer for me. Yes, when I saw that showcase for the first time, I was like, yes, save dude, thank you. Keeping you guys on your toes. Looks like we're all good in the chat, so I'm gonna move along. And drop this right on top. So now that awesome is on top of our scientist dancing. And let's say we want to fade it up. So again, I'm going to highlight that clip, and I'm going to hit Command D, and that adds my default fade. So it's a little cross dissolve, and it just comes up with awesome. He points at the screen. It says awesome, and then it just fades out. This is an amazing edit, guys. One thing I wanted to showcase to you is down here with appearance. I really love that they added this to Premiere Pro. Is you can now add a stroke if you wanted to straight from the effects panel. So if I added, oh, let me change the color of the stroke so you can see what I'm doing. We'll make it black. And now I can make it look like it's a meme. You can also add a background. So if I wanted to change this to some other color, I have no idea. I don't know why I'm choosing that color. Just the first thing that popped up. You can make it bigger or smaller. We are just doing wonders to this edit today. And you can also add a drop shadow. Pretty typical things, but now they're all available to you within the menu system, the effects controls within Premiere Pro. So one last thing to add in terms of an edit to this is, let's say we wanted to add a transition between maybe this clip and this clip. So we have like a little wipe or something like that. Well, within the Essential Graphics window, we can go to Browse, and there are some pre-loaded Essential Graphics that you can manipulate straight from Premiere Pro. So the one that I'm gonna add right here is this angled wipe bar transition, but you can download different templates, and the type of templates that go in here are called .mogerts. If you've never heard of them, that's the kind of graphics templates that you utilize with Premiere Pro, a .mogrt, motion graphics. So I'm gonna click and drag this angled bar wipe onto my timeline. Let me click and drag it, boop. And now, we should see something happen. Look at that. We got that angled, boom. We got this sweet looking transition happening in between these two clips. I like how the astronaut's looking over this way, and then as he looks, he's still looking that way, and that's I meant for that to happen, everyone. So let's say we wanted to change the colors of that graphic. So if you notice right here, if I double click with that graphic highlighted, I can now change the color of that graphic. So now instead of red, let's say we wanted it to be blue. Boom. And let's say we wanted the transition color to be, instead of white, let's say we wanted it to be yellow. This is getting out of hand immediately. And we'll keep the other one red. Why? Because why not, everyone? Why not? All right, so with everything that we have here, let me just briefly discuss exporting a project, because, hey, you've worked so hard on a video, you obviously want to show it to the world. The easiest way to export a project nowadays, and Premiere Pro has made it super easy, is first, you want to set your in and out points. So what I like to do, if you don't have anything else on the timeline, you could export this and then it would export the video just as is. But if you accidentally had some video footage way over here, if you exported the video without setting in and out points, you would export all of this black space, which that's something you don't want. So what we want to do is set our in and outs. The easiest way to do this is highlight all of the clips that you would want to have within your video and then hit the question mark key. So I'm going to highlight all of these clips. Let me zoom in just a smidge so you can see. And then I'm going to hit the question mark key, and that automatically sets the in and out points to the first and last edit points that are highlighted. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, if I really wanted to showcase this, I'm just gonna highlight this little section right here. I'm gonna hit the question mark key, and notice how it only highlighted these spots. So if I were to export my video right now, it would only export these spots. So let me hit undo on that. And now we have our video ins and outs set. Next thing we wanna do is go up to File, Export Media. Actually, that's the longer way. What I want to show you is Quick Export. So now that we have our ins and outs, let me go up here, and this little icon is Quick Export up top right. When you hit Quick Export, it brings up a little menu that only gives you a couple options on purpose. This is for people that want to quickly export footage and just get it out the door, and they want to showcase it to the world. The very first option that you have is where you want to save the footage. So if I were to click this, it would bring up my Finder, and then we would be able to save the footage wherever it needed to go. The second option is right here. So this is match. These are the presets for the quick export option. If you wanted to do 1080p, that's UHD, or 2160p, that's 4K. Those are the most common export. High quality 1080p and high quality 2160p are the two most common options that you would want for your quick export. Now, if you were going the longer route, what you could do is go over here to File, Export, Media. So, or you could hit Command M on Mac or Control M on Windows. No, it's not on split screen, Vance. It's just that I'm showcasing my monitor that has a different resolution than the stream at 16.9. So right here is the export settings menu. What I want to showcase is basically the normal settings for something like YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook. If you were going to export something for online, the normal format for doing that at this point in time would be H.264. So let me go up here. So I'm going to go up to H.264 underneath Format. And the next thing is the preset. So they have so many different presets for you here underneath preset. If you are doing something like YouTube, just go to YouTube 4K or YouTube Full HD. If you're doing Vimeo, they have Twitter. I believe there's a Facebook. Yeah, there's Facebook on here as well. They already have all of the parameters set for you for those predetermined social media platforms. So if I were to do YouTube at 4K, boom, YouTube 4K, and now I'd be exporting this whole video at YouTube 4K all the different parameters that they have preset into the export settings menu. The other thing to point out here is the output name. So if you were to click this, this is exactly where you would be saving the file. And then also how you would name it. You want to make sure that you're doing your audio and your video. And there are more parameters down here that could be explained, but not in a tutorial like this that just wants to get you on the ground running. If you want to explore more, I have a video on my page that goes in depth on exporting settings, but I just want to showcase to you that if you just want to get the video out the door, doing H.264 with the preset of whatever you're going to be uploading to, that will basically get you pretty much the best settings for that streaming platform. The next thing would be hit export, or you could queue it. If you hit queue, you would send it over to Media Encoder. Now that's not all. The last thing that I want to talk about here is the idea behind sending material to other platforms that are not just in 16:9, the horizontal video format. What we want to do is talk to you about a little bit of if you wanted to reformat this so it fit on a vertical platform like Instagram. So I'm gonna hit cancel on this, but just know that if you wanted to export this video, we could, and it would be all ready to go. Now, let me bring up my project monitor, and I'm going to go to my sequence, and I want to showcase to you a different view. I'm going to hit list view, and now we have this sequence. I'm going to rename this to cool. That's the sequence that we have been working with. You can see that it's renamed right here. The next thing I'm going to do is duplicate this. So I'm going to right click and duplicate. And the only reason I like duplicating is because I like to have backups. What we're going to be doing is creating a sequence that is the different settings for something like Instagram. So just to really showcase to you what we're doing, I'm going to go to this cool copy one, right click, and do auto reframe sequence. Click this. And now with this menu, let me zoom in. We have different options. The target aspect ratio can be square, vertical 4:5, which is the longest that you can have something on the scroll feed within Instagram. You can have 9:16. Now think of this as complete vertical video. So it's IGTV, TikTok, Instagram Reels, Instagram Stories, all those different things. Horizontal 16:9 is exactly what we've been working with this whole time, and then you can also do custom as well. So for this one, let's say I just wanted to do vertical 4:5. So we're posting this, if we were going to post this video to Instagram and we wanted to reframe it so it was the biggest that it could, or tallest that it could be on the Instagram home scroll feed. So let me click 4:5. There's things like motion tracking. I'm gonna keep it at default. And there's also clip nesting. Again, I don't have time to explain those to the fullest. I'm just gonna hit create here so you can see this amazing feature that's within Premiere Pro. So I'm gonna hit create and let it do its thing. And by the time I just hit create and said let it do its thing, I think it already analyzed and made the edit for me. So the one thing I wanted to showcase to you is down here, cool copy 01, there's now a 4:5 in parentheses. Let me make sure all of the comments are good. How long it takes to export a video, Logan, completely depends on what's within the video. It could have a whole bunch of graphics. If it's just straight video clips, just on a single layer with VO, it may take a certain amount of time, but there's other things that go into it. Like if you have After Effects layers and just a whole bunch going on with color, it can vary from computer to computer and edit to edit. Yes. So let me showcase to you what happened here with the 4:5. So if I scroll through, notice that the camera is moving along with what it thinks is the most important aspect of the video. And this is the most impressive part. And it's done this on every single time I've done this webinar. Look at the lady. Notice how the framing of this shot starts out with her kind of in a third, which I appreciate, but it automatically moves the camera as she blows the fire to center her and the fire as one subject center frame. This clip, if I double click on it, it's not, there's no camera movement, none whatsoever. But what Premiere Pro has done has automatically done the positioning of the camera for you. Mind blown. So cool how it does that. So if I scroll through, now we have I forgot this was at the end. And yeah, it's awesome. So that would be, now we could go through and do the same concepts. If you did need to switch anything, you can do that within your effects controls. So if I hit Shift 5 on my keyboard, now I could go here and adjust the motion. So let me adjust this. I could recenter this, or I could go over to another clip. Let's say we wanted to keep it on the astronaut. So I'm going to undo the auto reframe, and maybe I'll just position it myself. So I'll hit this little stopwatch to toggle the animation. I'm gonna move the playhead over here, and I'm gonna adjust these little numbers. So this is your x-axis and your y-axis. Undo, and I'm just gonna adjust it so I keep the astronaut in frame. So it looks like from this point, I'll click this button to add a keyframe, and then I'll move a little bit so I can keep the astronaut in frame, and I'll move the framing right here. Oh, it looks like the astronaut kind of goes off frame anyway. And then I can kind of move it back like this. I know I'm speeding through this animation. I'm sorry. I just wanted to showcase to you that it was possible to go in after the fact and do your own movement on the footage. Man, that's so cool. So that's how we built an edit inside Premiere Pro. Isn't this cool? When you look it up on Adobe, isn't it awesome? All right, everyone. I hope this has been sorry for the technical difficulties, but we got through it. We got through it. And thank you to those that stuck around. I hope you learned something within Premiere Pro. My name is Javier Mercedes. I'm at Javier Mercedes X on Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to see some more Premiere Pro tutorials, I do a lot of that on my channel. It's just Javier Mercedes. Let me check the chat to make sure we're all good and to go. Brad, thank you for sticking around, man. Thank you, Sent Out Church. Again, thank you guys for sticking around. All right. I know we did have those technical difficulties, but you know, you got to think on the fly when you're doing things live. All right, guys. Again, I'm Javier Mercedes. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you for being here. And I hope you guys start using Premiere Pro. I love it for video editing. So I hope you will too after a webinar like this. Let me bring up my little end stream thing here.